Hi there. Good afternoon. I'm going to get this up and check all the things and make sure everybody can see me and hear me before we really get started. This is a little bright. Ooh, hold on. How is everyone today? I hope we all got our crystals recharged overnight. Technically, the full moon made its actual appearance at 8:19 a.m. this morning. Um, so hopefully you got your crystals charged because the next full moon is going to be. Hold on, don't let me tell you no lies. How are you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. It will be December 4th at 6:14 p.m. and it's called the cold moon. I wonder why. I am going to light a little incense, guys, before we get started today. This incense today is white sage. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I have a little bit of ashwagandha peppermint. Ashwagandha peppermint. I know I put something else in this today. I don't know. Anyways, ashwagandha peppermint. It's relaxing and it helps your system to reset from stresses. Oh, I think I put a little too much honey in that though. Truly, I do. All right, guys, today we're going to get into it about niacin. I don't think it's talked about very much. Niacin. Niacin is also known as vitamin B3. Oop, like there we go. Vitamin B3. And I'm going to take one now. This is a full flush that I will experience and you guys will be able to witness it. I'm pretty pale right now. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there we go. I'm pretty pale right now. I'm pretty normal colored, I think. And what we will see is I will start to look like a burn victim. But rest assured, I'm fine. I'm taking one, and it is 500 milligrams of full niacin. Some people find this experience unpleasant, to say the least. Excuse me, but I think mostly it's because, excuse me, ooh, I didn't mean to burp. I think mostly it's because there's a lot of unknowns about what a niacin flush actually is. It can feel scary, especially if you don't know. And frankly, the first time I experienced a flush, I had actually accidentally taken the niacin. I meant to take it later in the day, and I took it with some of my morning vitamins. And so I'm outside working in the garden, and all of a sudden, I just was like, "What is going on?" I felt burning. I felt like I was burning, and it was like, "What am I having an allergic reaction to the sun or what?" Like I just did not understand what was going on. Um, and so, but I came inside and got myself calmed down, and I realized I could smell um, what smelled like tanning lotion with tingle in it. Well, turns out I was smelling niacin. But you get really warm, your skin gets really warm, and you can get kind of goosebumpy when it gets warm. So it can look a little bit weird. And it does look like you have a sunburn. If you can detect a sunburn, I've had a lot of people, I've done a short about the niacin flush, and I have had so many comments on that. And several of the comments are from ladies who talk about they have darker skin and they can't see the coloration change, but you can still feel it. You can definitely feel it. And we'll talk about an alternative to the full flush niacin here. toward the end. All right, it's after the noon mark, and that's really what I was trying to get to. So we're going to talk about niacin today, and I'm going to start out with some history about this because it's pretty important, I think, and it's stuff that I don't think a lot of us have heard. All right, so here we go. We're talking about, hey Sue, how are you doing? We are talking about what happens with a niacin deficiency, and we're going to go right into the history of a really, really large swath of time where there were big numbers of people with deep deficiencies of niacin. That was after the Civil War in the early 1900s. What is said about this is that most poor families, especially tenant farmers, which is funny because my family, we were sharecroppers. So that's pretty similar. It's a tenant farmer. It's a different name. That they lived mostly, almost entirely rather, on cornmeal and molasses with pork fat, a salt pork or lard, because it was cheap and filling. Okay. But it was entirely devoid of niacin or tryptophan. Tryptophan is a cool little thing because it's the sleepy thing. We've all heard tryptophan because it's in turkey meat, and then I believe it was in the 80s there was some not so wonderful news that came out about tryptophan, but then it was cleared up some years later. Nonetheless, your body converts tryptophan to niacin. Isn't that tripping out? That like totally shocked I was like, are you kidding me? Wow. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. The body does some really cool things. Honestly, it does. Okay. So here we go. Corn does have niacin in it. However, if it's not lime treated, it's locked up in there. It won't come out. So that's the reason why indigenous peoples of Central America do not suffer from niacin deficiency by and large, because they do lime their cornmeal. And so it then unlocks the B3 niacin. It unlocks it and makes it available to the human body. But so people were running around and, just doing everything that they could to survive during this time after the Civil War. And they were eating what they could get their hands on, which, kept them alive. Might not have kept them well, but it kept them alive. That sounds familiar. Kept you alive, but not well. That sounds like today's food. Ponderous. Anyway, so in 1906, there was an outbreak of pellagra, is what it was called. And this is a severe niacin deficiency. Those people filled asylums across the South. They had a bizarre combination of symptoms. They started with raw, dark, scaly rashes, especially on the hands, the neck, and the face. They had a lot of diarrhea and gut pain, depression, confusion, hallucinations. Eventually, this led to death. And the hallucinations, the confusion, and the depression, and all of that. I think that's a big key to why I wanted to talk about niacin, because a lot of folks were locked in mental institutions back in these times because they exhibited symptoms of schizophrenia, which is apparently something that does occur with a niacin deficiency, a pretty serious one, but it happens. So from 1906 to the 1940s, pellagra killed roughly 100,000 Americans. Mostly it was poor women and children, according to the history. And in some areas, they say it was so common, it was called the Red Death. I never knew that before really diving into this. That was something that really, really amazed me. That's something called the Red Death, because I think the Red Death is used in pop culture somehow or another. I don't know why I think it does. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? Anyway, okay. So then that was all figured out by this fella named Dr. Joseph Goldberger. And he had a theory, and so he did something was considered wild. He improved the diets of orphans in the orphanages and for patients that were in these asylums by adding meat, eggs, milk, and vegetables to their diets. And within months, the pellagra disappeared. So these people started getting all better. Um, but he actually had to prove that this was not an illness that was contagious. So they thought at the time that this was something that you could catch from another person, and he proved that that was not true. It was not a germ; it was malnutrition. And so this was a whole thing, and then he had a whole falling out with the industry, which same story, different chapter. Um, because it meant acknowledging that the region's poverty, they were reliant on cheap processed corn, which was a major crop. You can't fight industry. They want their money. All right, so this is how this whole pellagra situation was resolved. It was in the 1940s. Niacin was officially isolated and then added to flour and cereals through fortification. And that actually eradicated the severe pellagra that we had here in our population at that time. I mean, it just took a few years and these cases all vanished. But the irony of it is, that because the corn that we consumed then and really consume now doesn't go through what's called a nixtamalization process, which is the liming process. If we had done that to all the grains, this never would have been an issue, which is absolutely amazing to me. But here's the part. This is what amazed me so much. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to talk about this. So pellagra didn't disappear. It's just gone to a low-key level of existence. They call it subclinical. So officially, pellagra is an eradicated condition. But in practice, we traded overt deficiency for chronic depletion. And that doesn't make headlines, but it does quietly drain your health. So people aren't necessarily going crazy and being locked up in asylums anymore, though I do think some people are. But what they are now is chronically tired, mentally foggy, anxious, flat, or irritable, struggling with gut issues, and dealing with mystery, rashes, and heat intolerance. The heat intolerance screamed to me, "Hey there, Moses, how you doing?" The heat intolerance screamed to me very loudly because prior to me changing the way that I eat and, giving myself the necessary nutritional supplements and mineral supplements, I could not go outside in the heat for any amount of time. It made me physically sick. I mean, I got sick. I would throw up. It was really awful what it did. And I I'm amazed to learn all this time, later, that so many, actually every one of the conditions and diseases that I had been diagnosed and was being treated for with, standard prescription medications, that they were all caused by deficiencies. That was crazy. When I finally figured that out and things started to fix themselves, the ship started to right itself, is when it really, really clicked. Though I thought, in theory, that seemed to be what the case was. That, and I postulated that. In fact, I postulated that perhaps one of the reasons that we here in this country eat so much is because we are unknowingly searching for vitamins and minerals and real protein, and we just don't realize it. So, and it appears that theory is actually a pretty good theory. It seems to fit. Anyway, so what's going on, I think, with a lot of people on low-key levels is that we are in large part dealing with deficiencies in niacin. And that's because, hey, Lewis Fuller, how you doing? That's because our diets have changed so dramatically from natural, pure, whole things to this really over processed diet that most of us eat. And So we eat processed foods. Oh, we deal with chronic stress, and stress depletes your B vitamins so very, very quickly. And it's stress of all kinds. It's not just like being stressed out because you're in some terrifyingly horrible traffic, or because your neighbor won't stop shooting a gun that sounds like a cannon. But those are valid stressors. They cause your body to flood itself with adrenaline and the stress hormone I can't think of the name of right now. Don't know why, because Lord, I deal with it all the time. And that depletes your B vitamin levels. And then we don't necessarily nourish ourselves with whole food. Everybody's in a hurry, everybody's stressed out. And in large part, many of us do not know how to cook. Not really. For a whole lot of reasons, because maybe our parents didn't know how to cook, because home ec was removed from schools. I was in home ec, though. I will say I was in home ec for one day in seventh grade. And I was so clumsy with the sewing machine that the teacher of the class, sweet as she was, came to me and put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Sweetie, we need to find a different class for you." And so they put me in wood shop. I did great in wood shop. I don't know. I just did not do well. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate that. Additionally, in a lot of cases, due to this chronic stress, we use and overuse alcohol and medications for all kinds of things, and not just the stress from the illnesses that keep cropping up. It appears, based on a crap ton of research that I have done and ongoing research that I have going on, that so much of what we deal with is due to depletion of basic minerals and basic vitamin and real bioavailable protein, not fake meat. Fake meat is not going to give your body the building blocks it needs to do what it needs to do, which is to heal from this, really toxic rush, hurried world that we all live in. Now, on top of that, we're dealing with, probably the vast majority of us are dealing with gut issues of one type or another. And I don't know, for myself, for the longest time, I was just aggravated that my stomach or my intestines didn't want to necessarily act right. And one of the bigger problems that I had early on was with heartburn, which then got worse. So then it was called acid reflux, and then it got even worse, and then it was called GERD. And then additionally, I developed bleeding ulcers. Now, while I'm trying to treat the burning of heartburn, I'm not knowing actually that is a sign that my gut's acidity levels are off. And I did not used to know, and maybe you don't know this either, but if your acid levels are not right in your stomach, your body can't actually unlock the vitamins from any of the food that you eat. It just does not work. And so for myself, because I was on these medications for a very long time. I think it was just over a decade. And I know there are people out there that have been on them even longer. So what was happening all the time that I was on that, I was being robbed of basic vitamins and minerals. And one of those was this niacin. And so many of these symptoms are symptoms that I had to deal with, and that so many of us have to deal with. And we all want relief, and I totally get that. But what if relief is as simple as a vitamin? Just give it a think. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. So this is how subclinical niacin deficiency can and will show up. You might have some or even all of these types of symptoms. And if you do, it might be an indication that you are low on niacin or vitamin B3. Fatigue that feels beyond tired. Oh my gosh, that speaks to my soul. That was probably what I would have labeled my energy levels in the past. It was beyond tired. You couldn't even explain how bad it was. The brain fog and the short temper. Oh my gosh. That is so real. And this is actually part of the reason that I feel like So many, like I said, so many of what we as a society here in our country deal with every day, these chronic things that go on, and one of them being so reactive, so unable to handle even the smallest of problems or inconveniences. Everybody seems to have a hair trigger anymore. I'm no expert. I am not a doctor. None of this is medical advice. Y'all, this is education and in an entertaining way, hopefully, because I'm going to spill my secrets. Hopefully what'll happen is we can connect. We will have similar stories or similar symptoms because honest to goodness, all I want to do is help people to figure out how to feel better in a real, whole, healthful way. There are no shortcuts. There are no quick fixes to getting healthy. And I feel like so many of us are sick on some level. Um, so, again, the brain fog and the short temper. Additionally, poor stress tolerance. I mean, every bit of this just explains my entire previous personality. And I seriously do not even like that chick. Like, she got things done, but she was not nice. Not at all nice. Sleep disturbances, a big one, a huge problem. I personally dealt with sleep disturbances from a very early age. I had the worst cases of insomnia ever. Um, Craziness. So many of these things just could have been solved if I had any real amount of niacin in my diet. How crazy is that? Skin sensitivity. Oh my gosh, yes. And I still deal with one issue, and that is psoriasis. It's very small, a little bit on my elbows and a little bit on my kneecaps, where it used to be all over my body and in various forms because there are different types of psoriasis. In case you didn't know, sorry, there's like a crazy loud plane of some sort outside. It's probably a military thing. Anyway, um, another sign would be digestive discomfort, and that covers a wide range of symptoms that you could be experiencing. Hey, Tashiria. Hey, Buddha. How are you doing? Um, and another really good indicator. This is a very good indicator. If if you get in a less tolerant mood, or if you are really irritable after you have a carb heavy meal, a very strong indicator that there is a need for more B3 in your life. A very large clue. I mean, that's a huge one. So these are invisible versions of that disease that killed so many people here, called pellagra, and the recovery that I personally have experienced from this. And yes, I can't even actually believe that I was never diagnosed with any type of pellagra. I don't think that they really look for this sort of a thing anymore. Um, in the 70s, hold on, I got this man's name because it was such a big deal to me. Where is his stinking name? Hold up. There were a number of doctors in the 70s, but there was this one particular doctor in the 70s. He wrote a number of books. I highly recommend looking into it. If I can ever find the man's name, because for some reason, oh, there it is. Sorry, y'all. Abram Hoffer, Dr. Abram Hoffer. He was a Canadian physician, and a psychiatrist. So he was a huge advocate and spoke about, and actually there are speeches that you can find. You have to search for them pretty deeply to find, but like again, Dr. Abram Hoffer, um, he was a huge proponent of using mega doses of vitamins to combat so many of the illnesses that were going on in those days. And in particular, he spoke about using that to treat cancer and schizophrenia. In fact, a lot of the mental illnesses at the time, he, as a psychiatrist, used vitamins to treat. You can look into it and get some of his books. There's probably some of the PDF versions available, though I can't really speak to that. It's just a hypothesis that I have. It's very interesting information, and his books do contain information that reference many other doctors and many other studies. And some of these studies you can find on PubMed.gov, but you have to search very, very deeply to find something like that. You've got to be very targeted with that system because it has insane amounts of information up there. Um, so anyway, so what I have personally done to help me recover from all of those kinds of symptoms is that I added nutrient dense food. Number one for me was adding beef, lots and lots and lots of beef and pork, frankly, but mainly beef. And I have a theory about that. Beef looks the most like our tissue would under the skin, so it just seems like it's the right tool to give your body. Well, turns out biochemically, yeah, that's exactly it's the closest thing to the building blocks that we use that we can get our hands on because we don't eat water buffalo, which is apparently even more bio identical, which is weird, but I mean, hey, it helps to know. You never know. You might end up stranded somewhere with no food around except for water buffalo. You can eat those, and you'll be real healthy from it. Um, hold up. Oh yeah, and then I also changed. I didn't just change the food I was putting in my mouth. I changed what I knew of as food. And that still is a process that I'm in the middle of learning. And here comes the niacin flushing coming. I can feel it just a little bit on my ears. Um, and it did not happen overnight. So I changed all the food and I knocked out the toxins. And those were the toxins that I was putting in my mouth in my mouth. And then slowly, and I'm still working on removing the toxins that are in my environment. Um, and that can be a lot. But you gotta do things one thing at a time and, sort through it and sort through it, and then um, you have to work it. It's just like building any kind of a habit or building any kind of an environment for yourself. It's not magical, it's not gonna happen overnight. Like building a garden, most of us are not like Martha Stewart, we can't just snap our fingers and drop a lot of cash and have something be there the next day that somebody else put up. Building your health is the same way as building a garden for yourself, in my opinion. And I think a large part of it is that we have to recognize and be a part of a actual relationship with our bodies. Um, we are so much in a hurry and so stressed out and so distracted all of the time that I think many of us ignore signs that our body is trying to give us. And I know that for myself, I would I would I would be very annoyed at my body for letting me down or for failing me. And then sorry, there's a hair that's tickling the mess out of my chin. Hi Yoda, how are you? Um where was my freaking thought? See, that's why I told myself I was not going to read any of the chat because I lose my train of thought. I don't know. I don't know if I'll even get back to it. I just know this whole thing's been a process. Um, Out of necessity, this has been a process. First learning and recognizing that what was going on with my body couldn't have been what was going on with my body. Oh, that's where I was going with it. Because for so long, I had just resigned myself to believing that it was my DNA, you know? Mom had it, dad had it. I'm obviously going to have it. Yeah, go ahead. Give me the medicine. I guess I'm taking this for the rest of my life. And that's a very defeatist way to think about your body, or rather, that's how it feels to me. That's how I felt. Um, what could I have done? What could I have done? Because I believed that that was the case. And that's actually not the case. Um, and I think it's really important to share with people that rebuilding your health, it firstly can be very, very simple. Um, Secondly, it's not as hard as you might think. I promise you that. It's a matter of replenishment and a matter of understanding that your body didn't come to wherever it is right now overnight, and it can't repair itself overnight. But if you do give your body what it needs, if you do make an effort for yourself to try to only put whole foods in your body, um, and try to add some vitamins. Identify what your nutritional deficiencies might be. Do a little research. Spend a little time on you, which a lot of people would say is self-indulgent, but I disagree. I think it's absolutely necessary that we take time to take care of ourselves, to pay attention to and listen to our bodies, and to be honorable to ourselves and the others around us. Because if you're not being honorable to yourself, you certainly can't, in my opinion, be honorable toward anybody else. Not at all. I just don't believe that. Okay, let me see, because I know there was one more thing I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, I do remember what it was. But oh, here we go. Hold on. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about why niacin is so important. Niacin is so important because every cell of your body needs niacin to make energy. And that has a whole lot to do with NAD, and that's a little bit more advanced, and we won't get into that right now, but you can't really produce any real amount of energy without, the foundational building blocks. Niacin is one that's very important. And if you don't have enough of that, you're not making that kind of energy, you can be dealing with, on the regular basis, fatigue and burnout, an inability to detox in a natural way, which your body's always trying to do that. It's part of the program. It's a recycling that occurs. But it can get stopped up, it can get backed up and then stop working. Believe me. Oh, I can tell you some stories. We'll get into that another time. It can cause hormone imbalances, which then affect, everything else, your mood about all the things. And it can cause, this was probably the most aggravating part for me, inflammation that never stops, but it can move around. So you'll be hurting one day, maybe you'll have a hip pain and it'll be terribly swollen. And the next day that might be gone, but your right ankle might be all swollen. Like, it does not make any sense. Things don't seem to connect. That can be caused by low niacin. The brain fog is also accompanied by anxiety and depression. And again, it speaks to a lot of the mental issues that we deal with, or we might be right on the edge of. I strongly believe if we start really paying attention to this, we can combat this, y'all. I think we really can. And then when you have a sleep disruption happening all the time, you're going to be emotionally volatile. So again, in that reactive state, and reactivity is not a very helpful place to live. Now with the gut, it seems to be that we're probably having very widespread leaky gut issues. And I know that sounds crazy. I think that it's still argued in medicine about whether leaky gut is like actually a real thing or not. I don't know. Hopefully they've come to realize it is real. So many of the other health problems, and then they turn into, labeled and treatable conditions later on, seem to really originate with the gut having issues and then being followed by deficiencies that happen. Because again, there's the pH balance, the acid balance being right in your digestive system is what your body has to have in order to extract the nutrition to feed your body. Well, if you don't have that and you're not getting the nutrition, then this is all starting to, one thing leads to another. And this certainly seems to be the case, because it's poor nutrient absorption. And that, in a nutshell, I think was the biggest driver of my health collapse, if you will. It was just chronic depletion and no absorption was happening. Now there's some other B vitamins that I have to touch on, because we were talking about niacin specifically because of those pellagra-like or subclinical pellagra symptoms that seem to be plaguing so many of us these days. And lack of energy, but you really do also need the other Bs, all the Bs. But there seems to be some particular deficiencies in the area of B2 or riboflavin, and B6 and B12, as well as folate. And the B12 is one that I have had a real big problem with. And as a matter of fact, it was the reason that I dealt with very widespread tendinitis. I had tendinitis so severely in my hands, in my feet. Sometimes it would even be in my back, but in my hands and feet, and then forearms were the worst ones. And um, I actually was supposed to have had some carpal tunnel surgery, but it got messed up out of the schedule, whatever. I'm very glad that that happened because, as it turns out, all I had to do was replenish myself and then give my body time to rebuild itself with this B12, which is a methylated formula of B12, and that is you put it under your tongue, and it's very, very bioavailable. If you deal with that kind of thing, I highly, highly recommend that you at least give that B12 a shot, or even get a B12 shot. I'm not into that, but hey, you do you. But B12 doesn't accumulate. It's part of the waste product within a very short amount of time. So that's not something that one would need to be overly concerned about. I mean, don't go eating a whole bottle of it. That's ridiculous. Just don't do that. But then on top of all of that, as always, magnesium is necessary to turn your B vitamins on. So it's because we are natural. We're human beings and we are natural creatures. And we're supposed to have natural things in our body. We're supposed to immerse ourselves in nature, eat natural, as close to natural foods and whatnot as we can, because those are the things that give us the building blocks to do what our natural bodies are supposed to do. And when we're running around eating, toxic extruded corn things sprayed with really bright suspect orange coloring, these things do not actually provide your body with anything at all that it needs. In fact, it toxifies your body, and then it gives your body a whole bunch of recycling jobs and taking out the waste jobs. And you know what? There's some things that we eat that the body was never ever designed to deal with. And so it takes a really long time to get that out of the body. Doing this niacin flush will help that to happen. It does get things moving. That's why you get, very warm. And if you're pale skinned enough to see, you'll get very, very red, which I'm starting. My chest is starting to get red. My face is starting to get red. Once back here starts getting red, whoo, it'll be on then. Okay. Now listen, I want to point this out. While I do believe that niacin deficiencies are a large driver in these chronic illnesses that so many of us deal with, it absolutely is not the only thing. And again, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is education in a hopefully entertaining way. But these depletions that we deal with are on a micronutrient level, and I know a lot of us might poo-poo it away. A lot of us might think that it's not important that we get one vitamin or another, but one has everything to do with the other. Nature does not work in isolation. You can't target one organ or one particular type of cell within the human body. Understanding that might help you understand why it's so important for us to be closer to as natural as possible and eating only the whole foods. That will help. A lot of us deal with mystery fatigue and and even things like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. Again, I'm not a doctor or an expert. I'm a human being with a whole lot of life experience and a deep love for research. I think these things are caused by nutrient depletions. I, honest to God, do. And the lives that we live in modern day society help us to be depleted of these things, even without mentioning the fact that the food system is completely broken and toxic as hell. Let me see. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat now. Oh, thank you, Lewis. Oh, I think I said, oh, that is not a touch screen. I keep telling myself these things. Anyway, Yoda. Okay, I already actually said something to everyone that's here right now. Thank you so much for coming in, guys. Now, the niacin thing, a lot of folk are really scared to take a niacin supplement because of this flush. And I've had a lot of comments from people telling me how they did it and it wasn't the most pleasant experience, and so they won't do it again. But there is another way Hey, Buddha. Thank you, darling. I appreciate you being there. And I had to take a screenshot of it. So let me pull that up. Because I was like, wait, I thought I still had a bottle of this stuff, and I do not. We used it all. I need to get some more, though. But it is niacinamide, 500 milligrams. So this is niacin. It's not quite as strong. It's not quite as effective, but it also does not cause that flush. That is very frightening. And if you know that you need to up your niacin for whatever reason, I know a lot of people like to take niacin for blood pressure, and that does help. Though I would recommend you looking into some magnesium and seeing where that might help too. Um, but people are frequently frightened of this flush, and some people who maybe have been surprised by it hated it so much, or it scared them so badly that they don't ever want to do this again. And while I understand that, if you do the niacinamide versus the niacin, let me show that picture again. You will not experience that burn or the heat or that flush, and you will still get the benefits of this niacin. Again, it just won't be quite as quickly effective. So know that ahead of time. Don't. There's no need to increase a dosage on. There's no need to do that. You just have to give nature time to do what nature does. We can't rush it. We really can't. You can't cheat it. There is no shortcut. There is no hack to health. Um, you just got to give your body everything that it needs, and then allow your body the time to repair itself while reducing as many injuries, as you can. Because while I live a pretty, I don't know, Chad says kind of a pious life, this is something that I am still in the process of working on, and it did not happen overnight. This isn't something that can happen overnight. I don't think, first of all, people don't know how to do it. It's so much. And when you start to learn about it, if you think you're going to get it all out of your life and everything changed at one time, you're very surprised very quickly. But starting with one thing, we can start to rebuild our health, rebuild our awareness of our own selves and our own bodies. And I think that really will go a long way for overall health, mental health, how we're able to interact and be around one another, and how much stress we can handle. It is easier to handle stress when you're well fortified. And I mean fortified with real vitamins, because not that stuff. Fortified vitamin stuff in foods, they do not help. They're virtually useless. I feel like there is a hidden nutrient crisis that's beyond most of what we deal with here in the country. And so I'm going to be going live every week, and I'm going to highlight one of the vitamins, or even one of the illnesses that I have been dealing with that's real common things, like, for instance, psoriatic arthritis or IBS. There's a lot of things that we repeatedly deal with. We need to talk about it. We need to take things like IBS out of the shame corner and literally talk about it, because it can be very frightening, and it makes you feel very uncomfortable to talk about or to be around other people in a lot of cases if you're in a flare and they want to go out. Again, we won't get into that right now, but I wanted to put this out there and make sure everybody understands that these things are so important. And I have rebuilt my health all on my own. I don't even know a thing about a thing. I just know that I did this, and my body's still repairing itself. And I know with absolute certainty that each and every one of us can help our bodies to feel better. And I just want to share this information because for the longest time, I was really hopeless. I had pretty much given up. There was no way around it. There was nothing I could do. I felt defeated, and I found hope. And I just have to share this because I just feel like we all deserve it. We all deserve to feel good and to feel some amount of hopefulness. It makes every day so much easier. All right, guys. If anybody has a question, please go ahead and let me know so I can answer it, and then we will wrap this up today. I don't see any questions already up here, but let me give you guys a few seconds anyway, and let me get a swig of tea, which I still think I put too much honey in this. Honest to goodness, I think I did. Ooh. Oh, here it comes. Here come. Okay, yep. So the ears are getting good and red now. I hope you guys can see. I'm trying to let more light in here, but if I have light shining directly on me, you won't see a thing. Yes, and my ears are starting to get good and red, and my chest and throat are starting to get a little red. My arms aren't yet. Well, I'm getting a little bit of pink splotches. Hey, Miss V, how are you? Um, this is a ashwagandha peppermint and one other thing, and I can't remember what the other thing was that I had put in. I want to say, oh, it's echinacea, ashwagandha, echinacea, and dang it, now how did I lose peppermint? That's the first thing that I taste, and then honey. But I think I might have put a little bit too much honey. You just had your ACV, Miss V, for your tummy. Have you been doing that daily? Miss V is on her own wellness journey, y'all. Watch her, watch her. She's gonna be like, I feel like a teenager. It won't take long because she's been doing this for a while. Hold up, what is this? You just started back. Oh, honey. Okay, well, hey, get back. It takes time. Listen, it does take time. It takes so much time because eating or being more healthy for yourself it's a series of habits that you have to develop. It takes time. And it's like a set of stairs, you got to get one good and built and firmly in place before you build another one. If you put too much together, it all collapses. You lost 30 pounds last time on ACV. Girl, wow. I know a lot of people do lose weight from using that. I don't know if I lost weight from using it or not. I might have. I was quite a little fatty, but I've been really, 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 really rail thin before, like sickly thin before in the past. Okay. Hey, Tashiria, you are still here. Thank you, darling. I really do appreciate you. I so appreciate you coming. And yeah, and I missed going live this morning. I overslept for real, for real. And I was like, whoa, hold on, wait, what happened? And when Chad offered, he was like, "Oh, I'll get my pants on." I was like, "Oh, okay." I took my pants back off. I was like, "I don't have to go out there." Cool. It was cold. It was quite cold this morning. And we have an electrical issue here in the house that's been giving me some problems for like 3.5 weeks now. And earlier today, I did not know this was going to happen. It was not a scheduled event, but I had electricians here earlier this morning. And so if my live here was a little bit of a hot mess, which I don't know, I think it actually went pretty good. But if you guys thought in any way that it was a hot mess, I do apologize, and it will get better. It's my first time. All right. It doesn't look like there's any questions. I didn't think that there would be right now, but I'm glad to hear from you, Miss Bade. I'm glad to hear that you're getting back on the health wagon. All right, guys, this is where we'll go ahead and end this. Like I said, I'm in full flush now. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're getting hot. Woo, but in all fairness, you could probably tell my temperature at any given time from the color of my ears. And thank you, Miss V. You enjoy your blessed day too, sweetie. It is kind of nice outside. It's terribly windy, but it's kind of a nice temperature. And I am going to get my little booty outside and get some herbs and some comfrey from the garden. I got to restock some of my herbs because they get low, and comfrey is one of them. Oh, and mullein. I've got to see if I have any more mullein out there. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. Please, as always, remember to take your vitamins. If you have any questions about niacin, just ask me down in the chat. I'll answer your questions at a later time. I appreciate it. Like I said again, take your vitamins, love yourself, and be kind to one another because we can change the world. It's all on us, but we got it, right? All right, guys. I will see you next time. Bye, bye, bye. Thanks for coming.